what's interesting is more than half of the authors are women, and yet for whatever reason, 45% of their prices are like 45% lower than that of male authors. And I think that comes down to
Especially as a Gen X woman in leadership, you have an incredible level of experience that you probably haven't thought about sharing with the world, or you have thought about it, but you've been nervous. You've been building up stories in your head, like I do about. Got a real question for you, Gen X women. Are you leaving impact and income on the table? See, what I mean by that is that you have a story, you have lived experience, you have expertise in an area where you've been demonstrating this for many, many years. But have you taken your authority in which you've demonstrated and put it inside of a book? See, tonight's podcast, is really going to be about you taking your story and sharing it with more people, but in the form of a book. I have my sister, one of my best friends, coming in tonight and sharing the real reality of what you're leaving behind because you've been procrastinating on getting your story out. So I'm excited to have you all listen to my friend, the procrastination bully, none other than Melissa Thomas. What's going on, Melody? How's it going?
what's up.
Yeah,
It's I'm super excited. I'm super excited. Thanks for having me back on, man.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And for those who don't know, Melissa T's been on this podcast before. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see her as like one of the closer episodes, like in like maybe the third upload. But I actually had her previously because you saw a replay. This is actually live. We're being recorded here in February, Black History Month, where we're really looking to make history with Gen X women. And so, Mel T, for those who don't know you, tell the people about yourself, what you do, professionally, business wise. Tell everybody what you do.
Sure. So, as you heard Guy mention, I am Melissa T, the procrastination bully. So, I help transform chronic procrastinators, habitual procrastinators, into producers. He put the hand up. Trust me, y'all, I'm working on him too.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, I transform procrastinators into producers by basically showing them the ropes, showing them the different ways that they can actually overcome it. Because as I taught in one of my recent workshops, procrastination isn't a time management issue, it's an emotion management issue. A lot of it, when you boil it all the way down, comes back to personal development. It has to do with emotion management, emotional intelligence. So if you were to tune into the Getting the Win show on YouTube, like subscribe there, the majority of the episodes have to do with personal development. Usually we're talking about self image, we're talking about we get into some tools as well. So sometimes
Yeah.
I'll talk about what's called the Eisenhower matrix, the prioritization matrix. We'll talk about those tools and tricks in terms of tactics and techniques, but a lot of it is personal development. So I am a certified extreme execution coach. So I'm big on helping people become emotionally intelligent, developing the language that they need to effectively communicate what they need so that they can get more done in less time. Because sometimes procrastination comes down to that too. It's not having the right language. So
Hmm.
I arm
Hmm.
my viewers with the right language as well.
Yeah, and I'm very appreciative of what she shared, especially for me when one, how she is able to coach me through not procrastinating is because she's been putting action behind what she said she's going to do. And so one of the biggest areas of me procrastinating was actually getting things started on YouTube, right? I was just going where I could go, but in my head, she talked about the emotional space. There was a level of perfectionism that I wanted to have. I wanted to have everything together. I was, and just really listening to her coaching, it was like, God, you don't have to have all those things together. Let everybody be a part of your journey as you're doing this. And so I've been a student of what she shared, I watch and I'm like, okay, cool. Let me take this note here and apply it to myself, so that way I know how to move forward. But Mel T, yes, I called you, so I know her as Mel T. So you will hear me say that tonight. She's a part of the larger Access Grant Ed team. She's been nicknamed Mel T, Melissa Thomas. But Mel T, outside of being a procrastination bully and the Get in the Win show on YouTube, what else do you do like professionally? What's your background?
Sure. So thanks for allowing me to flesh that back out. So
Hmm.
before I became the procrastination bully, that is the most recent iteration of Melissa T. I have 14 years of experience editing people's books and coaching them through the publishing process. I published my first book in 2012. It was actually a 52-week devotional. And I promise you, from scratch, like I knew nothing about the publishing process. And little by little, I learned it myself. I listened to other author coaches, book coaches who walked folks through the process. I learned it myself. And to Guy's point about getting started on his YouTube channel, there's certain things that you can only unlock by doing them, which I stress that a lot on the Getting the Win show. Like, do it messy, do it ugly. That way you can actually learn the lessons, learn what to avoid, learn what works better versus what you probably learned the first time. But yes, I have 14 years of experience in book editing and author coaching. So that's my bread and butter. Outside of the procrastination bully, that's the bread and butter.
Yeah, sweet, sweet. And I know one of the spaces that we've talked about is getting my book together as well. And so that is another layer that I've been building up a whole bunch of false realities in my head. And like, it's just time to get some things moving. And so let's go ahead and hop into some more of the meat of what this podcast is. I mean, this episode's about LT. Um, you know, in my line of work of, coaching organizations to get grant funding, and then also talking about just grant funding as a whole and doing grant writing for some groups. One of the things that I stress to organizations is that you have to identify multiple ways of bringing income into your nonprofit, right? Grants is a fantastic way to do it, because really it's just your output of your time and energy that you have to write the grant, and or maybe you're hiring a person to do that, but that's a way to get in some resources. Other ways are fundraising. Another ways are doing like galas and getting sponsorships. But the other way
Hmm.
is generating income. Like actually, as a nonprofit, you can generate income. I mean, some of the best nonprofits sell products and services to help fund their operations. And so, one of the best ways that in talking with Mel T and listening to her work is about authorship, right?
Hmm.
You, especially if you've been doing your work for at least 10 years, you probably have over 10,000 hours in the work that you're doing. If you've been doing it for 10 years, you
Facts.
probably have well over 10,000 hours. And we hear that term 10,000 hours makes you a master at it makes you that master at what you do. And so
Hmm.
when we take that as a especially as a Gen X woman in leadership, you have an incredible level of experience that you probably haven't thought about sharing with the world, or you have thought about it, but you've been nervous. You've been building up stories in your head, like I do about, like I did about YouTube, and really thinking through some of this. I'm like, yo, your story, not just for telling your story for story's sake, but also the curriculum that can come from that can be given to
Yes.
newer nonprofits as a part of a product that goes back into your percentage. But when I heard some stats that Mel T told me, I'm like, yo, this is a serious problem. And then, more of y'all just need to start doing the thing. So Mel T, like, from your research, like, what have you found as a real problem in this space of authors and publishing, books, just getting books out? Like, what have you found that's really making you drive things for women in this category?
Absolutely. So it's interesting in the US that over it's 52% of authors are over 40 right now, like men and women alike. Over like 52% of them are 40 plus. What's interesting is more than half of the authors are women, and yet for whatever reason 45% of their prices are like 45% lower than that of male authors. And I think that comes down to perception. For whatever reason, there's not enough of those stories that are being taken seriously, which I thought was very interesting. And so my biggest drive right now is conquering statistics like that
Mm-hmm.
with greater numbers.
Mm-hmm.
People can't argue with data, people can't argue with majority.
Right.
Since there's already that many people over 40 writing, let's get more women 40 plus, like let's get more of their books published, because their stories will be taken more seriously if there are more of them in the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Especially
Mm-hmm.
with that pricing issue, some of that comes down to personal perception, because particularly with the tools that I share, particularly with a lot of what a lot of book coaches share in terms of self-publishing, you as the author determine the price of your book. So part of my what I do in author coaching is also help with that emotional intelligence piece, so that they can more clearly perceive the value of what they're sharing in their book. Because there's no reason for a woman's book to be priced 45% lower than a man's book.
Yeah.
Not when
Yeah.
more than half of the books are being published by women
Yeah.
over 40 plus.
Yeah.
Like, so
Yeah.
I'm calling on my Gen X women to step up
Yeah.
to the plate,
Uh,
because you
I'm
have the
just
most experience right now. Like,
I'm
it's
thinking
your
about that
moment right now.
number. Yeah, it is your moment right now, and for many reasons, your moment right now. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking about that number. Okay, it's 45% less than the average male book. So let's just take an average book price being $30. So you're telling me that it's like maybe $14 that come on, and so and I get it. Self per how we perceive ourselves is a hard thing because we're and coming from a Christian point of view, we're talking about to be humble, like not to
Hmm.
build our egos up in different spaces, but but it's just in the world like it's kind of looked upon, frowned upon that we are charging appropriately for our services. I've wrestled with that.
Right.
Y'all was like, yo, guy, you cannot be offering all of this for this little bit. like
Mm-mm.
like
Y'all, I've talked to him about that too.
y'all should y'all lucky y'all ain't catch me like in 2023 with my pricing. Y'all would have been like, yo, I just made a way with guy. But real talk, what's you talked about some of the strategies or like in your coaching space, like what's a way that you actually help women to begin to see themselves? Or I mean, before you say how you help them, what have you found have been the biggest challenges or hurdles of self perception with women?
Sure. So some of it comes down to what you mentioned before in terms of that faith-based perception,
Hmm.
that, oh, we must remain humble, don't brag about yourself too much, that kind of thing. That's a hurdle for a lot of us. And I'll be honest with you, like you, Guy, I struggle with that myself. What helped me and how I help women shift that perception too is to turn the lens around. If you're worried about being humble or coming across arrogant, don't look at it. Take the lens off yourself and focus on the people you're trying to serve, the people that your book is going to serve, the lives that your book is going to transform. When you look at it that way, you view it in a more precious way. You view the book as a luxury item, like I'm rocking the shirt. Like, you view the book as a luxury item, and from there you understand its value and can price it accordingly. So that's one example. Another sort of headache that Gen X women who've spoken to me have expressed is they don't know where to start. Maybe they have a bunch of ideas, they might be multi-passionate. So I'm going to run through three screening questions that you can ask yourself if that's you. If you're someone with multiple book ideas and you multiple lessons. So I'll use like a divorce example, right? Say a woman wants to be a divorce coach, or they maybe run a family focused nonprofit. Maybe they want to focus on healing families. One book can be, they might have an idea about healing from divorce. One book might be about self-image as a mom and a wife or an ex-wife, healing that self-image. Another one might be healing in a way that nurtures your children. Like all of these are different individual book topics. And, that woman in question may want to write something about all of that. So here are the three questions. One, what are you most passionate about? Which topic are you most passionate about? Number two, which topic do you get asked about most repeatedly? What are they asking? What are people asking you about the most often? And then number three, this one comes from our coach, ET the hip hop preacher. Which one will get you to the bag the fastest? Which topic is the quickest that will generate revenue for you? Like that's a great way to prioritize which book to focus on or which topic to focus on for your book.
Yeah.
So for those who struggle with the too many ideas thing, like that's a great way to start. For
Yeah.
someone who's starting from absolute scratch, then that's actually also, those questions are also a great way to start. If you're starting from absolute scratch and maybe don't have an idea, you can still use those questions. Um, and then perhaps also focus, like research the trending topics that are like bestsellers right now, and find which one of those resonates with you the most, and then run that topic through those three questions. Like, based on this topic, have people ask me about this? Have I talked the most about this? And is this topic something I can make money on very quickly based on my own experience?
Hmm. Hmm.
So that
Yeah.
it's a tactic that works either way.
I like how you use that, and in the last, let's say, 6 months, I've had the opportunity to work with two Gen X women
Hmm.
who's taking their pain. One has already written a book, and it's become an international bestseller. But the other hasn't.
Okay.
And she wanted to start getting grants, for her for-profit entity. And as I was building that relationship with the CEO, and she started just sharing more of her story, like what happened to her because of cyber crimes and cybersecurity, like different things that happened to her entire
That's
makeup, and like
powerful.
and just breaking down like the trauma that she went through. And I said immediately, well, she didn't have a nonprofit yet. I said, the program that you're creating now, like through your business, this needs to be moved positioned into your nonprofit. In that coaching session, I said, this needs to be positioned to your nonprofit. Also needs to be a book. And the reason why, it's going to inform the people about the work that you're doing, the reason why it happened, and how you overcame it. Because there
Hmm.
are countless of individuals who've been victimized through cyber crimes, right? Through just their space of just through them getting attacked through that way. But then on the
Hmm.
other portion, now your curriculum, everything flows out of that, like your program design, like how. So this is where the grant piece comes in. So
Yes.
you're taking your story, right, that you're going to be working with Melissa through to get that out, and then now, as you're forming that, as you're using your story, you're also developing curriculum where you come work with me. We work through that program of, okay, well, how are we going to change the knowledge, right? How are we going to help change people's knowledge? Because you're hearing what people come to you about every single day. So now we're going to help do the knowledge change. What steps need to happen in there? The next piece is, now, how do we help transform behavior? Okay. This is part of your programming. And then we're going to show how we make impact from that. And so when we were able to break those down, now you've created from your book, from your story, from the place that you have authority, and now you're becoming an author with it. You're also going to profit from there by the sales of your book, and then also leveraging grants as well too. And then the power of having your story that opens the door for partnerships and other fundraisers too. So by you just owning your story and stop procrastinating and getting into like a book, you've opened up so many other doors for you that are waiting. What's the
Hmm.
scripture that says, Melissa? It's in Romans, right? It says that the world is groaning, that the universe is groaning
Yeah,
for you.
creation, Romans 8.
It's waiting for you. Like we need you. People need to
Hmm.
hear your story. And so you talked about, I'm gonna pass it back over to Mel T, but you talked about um, how you help them identify. And you gave like three ideas. And my mind was already broken, like, oh yeah, I see the program right there for that, like boom, boom, like for three different programs. I was taking notes. Like, so like what's the steps like that, once they did those things, like how did they actually begin like writing? Because like in my mind, like writing a book seems really, really hard. Like it seems scary. Like it's like that's a
Hmm.
lot of pages. Like I'm looking at all the books I have. Now I'm looking at the books on your shelf, like your procrastination journal. I think that's yours, right?
Yep,
That just dropped as well
yep,
too. Like I'm looking at all those
yep.
things. I'm like, yo, that's scary. Like it's a lot of pages to write, and I don't write like that. Like what? So how do you get people like to actually start writing?
Absolutely. And I take this is step one in the process. What I just shared with you is like step zero. Like that's like foundation,
Okay.
running through those three questions to sort of narrow down the topic first. Once you're clear on the topic, I walk people through what I call a word web. In other words, it's a mind map.
Okay.
And Guy is familiar with this because I've walked him through it as well for his program. But what you do is you put your main idea or ideas in the center of a blank sheet of paper or blank screen if you're sophisticated. um, and then from there, put those main ideas or that main idea in a circle, and then draw legs pointing outward, and then jot down all the other words connected to that main idea or those main ideas. And then draw legs out from those and do the exact same thing. Whatever words are connected to that secondary idea or secondary ideas, write those down and keep iterating until you empty your mind of everything that is connected to that topic, to those topics, to those ideas. And from there, what you'll notice once it's in front of you is that there are similar ideas that you can cluster together. You can more readily organize the ideas into groups.
Yeah.
Once you start grouping these will become your chapters. And the bigger, more umbrella terms will become your sections. So for a nonfiction book is typically anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000 words. The average nonfiction book is between 20,000 and 50,000 words with 5 sections with 3 chapters each. So that's your guide kind of book where you're highlighting lessons that you've learned and backing them up with stories. That sort of style of a book. I like to term that as a guide. If you're writing your book more as a memoir, that will be slightly different because a memoir is meant to read like a story, like a continuous story. But what you'll want to do at the end of each chapter is put key takeaways. Don't just have it as a steady story. Memoirs that become bestsellers are usually celebrity memoirs because we know who they are already. If you're someone who is not necessarily well known, but you have powerful lessons to share, do share your story, but at the end of each chapter, make sure you have takeaways, like those key lessons you want your reader to distill and take action on at the end of every chapter. Okay.
So I just started doing like one kind of give people a visual. Let's see if it'll work. But you talking about like something like that as a mind map, kind of
Mm-hmm.
getting it
Mm-hmm.
out
That's a
like
start.
that.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So show like one more time. Can you just walk them through like what they see on the screen in the middle? So it's like
Sure.
guys.
It says guys books, and
Yeah.
then it
So like
says transforming communities. Is that what that is?
yep,
That the second
transforming
circle,
communities.
transforming communities?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then
Grants.
partnerships and
Grants.
grants
Yeah.
and partnership. Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
like though you see how those ideas started to get kind of clustered together.
Mm-hmm.
That's so if we were gonna go based on that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So the one in the circle,
Mm-hmm.
that secondary circle,
Mm-hmm.
that would likely be a section.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then grants and partnerships would be respective chapters
Okay. Got
in
it.
that section.
Got it.
Hmm.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Okay.
So you would do the word web or the mind map. From there, you cluster those ideas, organize them the way you want to. That
Mm-hmm.
becomes your outline.
Okay.
That becomes your outline, which is step two. Once you have your outline, then it's off to the races in terms of the writing. So let me get to your question directly now. There are two ways to do this. You can physically write if you're somebody that prefers to type. Some people prefer to type, some people prefer to talk. That's the second way.
Talk.
Yeah.
I talk.
Yeah. And the beauty of it is whether you're using Google Docs or Microsoft Word, a lot of the word processors these days have a voice to text function. They have some kind of dictate function. So that's really the cheat code if you want to get your book done as quickly as possible. The average person speaks 150 words per minute. Talk for 10 minutes, that's 1,500 words. If you're talking for 10 minutes a day, by the end of a month, your book is done if you follow your outline. It doesn't take long. It really doesn't.
Yeah, you just made that sound super simple. Like,
It is. It
yeah,
really
like
is.
so for those that don't know, like even she talked about using a word processor, but I found like how I even journal. I actually
Yes.
do it when I'm walking, and what I found is that I can actually now, like with the iOS updates. I don't know about Android, but with the iPhone updates, you can actually record your voice inside your Notes app, and it makes a transcript of all of that for you. So,
Yep.
with that being said, that's procrastination bully. Let's get them. Let's go.
That's a whole cheat code. That's a
Yeah,
whole cheat code.
yeah,
That, to my knowledge, that's also true for Android as well. But the other thing as well for the folks that prefer to write, some of us prefer to type.
yeah.
The If you can carve out 90 minutes a day, it still comes out to the same thing. 90 minutes a day will get you roughly 1,500 words.
Hmm.
So if you're doing that daily, that's only 90 minutes. 90 minutes a day for 30 days, your first draft is done as long as you're following your outline. And remember, you're coming from a place of information that you know that you know that you know. So
Yeah.
once you start, it's going to flow out of you. The biggest issue in procrastination and in writing, both, is starting.
Hmm.
That's really
Hmm.
the key. Once you start, then the ball is rolling.
Hmm.
And from there, it becomes a lot easier. That's why I always say action is the antidote,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah. So I know even for some, like going to the gym, like when people say, okay, we do a 90-minute workout, right? That's still a lot. Like that's still a
That's a
lot,
lot.
like to pick up from from scratch. So like even would you say like to get somebody just started, what they did like 7 minutes, like 7 minutes are just writing something a day, and then
Uh,
well, I know. Let me take a step back. What you gave is the 30-day formula, right? The 30 days to get
mm,
this done. But let's be for real. Some people don't have the some people aren't wired to sit down for 90 minutes and just begin to write.
90.
And like looking at a
True.
blank page can still be daunting. Like even the circle piece and like doing that, but like What about like what would you recommend is the smallest number that a person could do until they build up a habit? What would you say would be the smallest unit that they should do?
And I've gone over this on my channel. Use the 2 minute rule. Start with 2 minutes. We can always carve out two. Do it, carve out 2 minutes out of your lunch break if you take one. Like some turbo folks will only take like a 10-minute lunch break or something. Like carve out 2 minutes out of that and start. And if you're someone who really doesn't have time, I would strongly recommend the voice recording option instead. Even if you do prefer typing, I would recommend starting with the voice to text part because that way you're not looking at a blank page when you're ready to go back to it to actually type. That way you're actually seeing words on the page. You're like, okay, I've already started. Because remember, the key is to start. So 2 minutes, small amount of time. Start there. Normally by that point, the juices start to roll.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to feel yourself get into a flow. So give yourself another 2 minutes. And then another 2 minutes if you have it. And then another 2 minutes if you have it. You know what I mean? Until you don't. Like whether it's time to go back to work or move on to whatever the next activity is. But I would strongly recommend using that voice option because you get more bang for your buck in terms of time. And you have words on a page that you can physically see. So it's not blank anymore and you're not starting from absolute scratch.
Yeah, and I'm gonna speak to the people who like to sit down and get things done in that one time of setting, which is me, right? That's me. I like to carve out a whole day and like just sit down and plow through stuff because I feel like I'm getting more like I just feel like I got so many things I'm juggling, and but what she shared is absolutely probably the better way to do it. And I'm taking back to weight loss. For those who don't know, I used to be pushing 300, right? When I was like younger, maintain a good weight now. But the thing was, I didn't lose the 300 pounds in one 3 hour gym session. No, it was a continual session of 30 minutes, 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we want to do the goal of 30 days, but what if it took you 60 days to get your book out and to now have lasting impact moving in and then also additional income? Wouldn't it be worth it to start out with 2 minutes and then the next week add on 2 more minutes? Then the next week add on two more, and then you have this rhythm. Like now your mind and your hands, or your mind and your mouth and everything is worth looking forward to doing it. Yeah, I get it. I seriously get it. I'm building a shed in the backyard right now, and it's like my dad says, hey, if you do a little bit every day, you'll have that shed completed. But here's me,
Yep.
like, I don't like, I get in the groove of doing some work or writing a grant, doing some research. I'm like, but no, when I go stop and do one thing, like even just like put a little strip around the seal around the window, I did one thing that day. So what's the one thing that you can do today for the impact that you need to be leaving? What's the one thing that you could be doing today? What's the one thing that you can be writing? Can you do your mind map? Can you, or the word, what is it? The word cluster?
Web.
Web, the word
Word
web,
web.
the word web, right? Can you do a couple branches, right? And then come back to it. It doesn't have to be everything, but at least doing something because again, creation is groaning for you. We're waiting to hear that. But then also the people that you need to be serving in your nonprofit is waiting too. The be able to
Mm-hmm.
extend your programming, right? To hire a new person because of the different sponsorships now, because people see your voice differently. They hear the story behind the nonprofit. Because typically what I found is that most people start a nonprofit because of some pain that they went through. They want to give
Yeah.
back in that area, especially us social entrepreneurs. We went through something where we want to be able to serve them because we made the bread through our business. Am I right? You tell me.
Absolutely.
Put in the comments. Put in the comments. Is that right or is that cap? Guy up here camping. But anyways, so Melty, like, what else? I know you have upcoming a major event for the spring, um, the Spring Forward Writers Retreat. I said it right this
Yep.
time, right? I said it right this time, right? The Spring
You
Forward
sure did.
Writers Retreat.
Right.
What why did you put that together for? And like, tell us more about the power behind this writers retreat. When is it, and like why even have it?
Sure. So I love to tell a story. This actually started from Carl Wesley Phillips, the Bayesian sensation. He's someone who procrastinated on writing a book for very much the same reason that a lot of Gen X women would struggle with, which is imposter syndrome. We didn't touch on that, guy, but that's another one. The who am I to
Hmm.
write a story, right? Who am I to share what I've experienced? And in his case, when he decided to go forward with it, it turned out his book was very necessary. Like it was extremely helpful for those of us who are introverts. I'm one of them. Like I've had the privilege of telling him face to face, like your book helped me. Like it get. And here's the other thing. This just occurred to me as I'm saying it. Here's the reason why your book, if you're a Gen X woman, is necessary. Your story and the way you express your experience can give people language for what they're feeling that perhaps they didn't have before. Carl's book gave me language for expressing the way that I have felt as an introvert or someone who was undervalued before. So he was obedient with his book, had his first live event in December of 2023. We had the privilege of attending that event together. Um, and our mutual cousin, sister, bestie, Jessica Holly was like, "Yeah, so now that I know what you do, I'm waiting to hear about your writers retreat next year." I was like, "Oh, really?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that was the end of 2023. Didn't get to do it 2024, so I wanted to make good on it in 2025. And obviously, we're people of faith, so I made sure to go to God with it, and He gave me the date. It started with March 15th, and with Jessica's help, we've built an experience around it. So, to give the why, to answer your question directly in terms of the why, we mentioned earlier in our conversation about those statistics.
Hmm.
We need to increase the number of Gen X women voices that are out there sharing their experience, sharing their expertise, giving others language that they need to express themselves and grow and move forward, giving them the steps that they need to experience the very same things you did or to avoid some stuff that you experience. Like,
Yeah,
here's some
yeah.
pitfalls, don't do this. Okay. So the primary purpose of the retreat is to help women stop procrastinating on their book and complete it by the end of the weekend, which is possible using that 30-day model that I just mentioned to you, because I have folks doing pre-work before they're on site. So the retreat is happening from March 13th to 16th in Orlando, Florida. So thank you for that link. Appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And by the way, this is Black History Month. So use the promo code BHM, Black History Month, BHM at checkout to get 20% off your ticket. But go to Spring Forward Retreat right now to secure your spot and use that promo code.
Yeah. Um, just hearing these, talking with you. One, I got a chance to really learn these stats because I'm actually helping Melty, write some, get some receive some grant funding to continue with her business. And as I was just listening and helping her to define the problem statement, I was just like, yo, why is this a problem? As we begin, why is this a real problem? But as I began to listen, and ask deeper questions, I was like, yo, like she said, or like we said before, your story not being out here is stopping so many people from getting ahead, from missing, from overcoming the pitfalls, from overcoming the hurdles. I've learned so much in my journey about entrepreneurship, grant writing, because of the stories of others. Like literally, my
Mm-hmm.
mom. Like I'm actually gonna be like pushing her, say, "Yo, mom, you need to go ahead and sign up for this and go." Because your story of community impact is what I saw as a kid. Like I had a first seat experience, but I also had the first seat experience to the pain you went through to do this work. I went through. I saw the experience that you had, um, Just remember the nights you came home like with dad of like, yo, people was threatening you because you were about to be you were positioning yourself to be the first extension director in the state of North Carolina as a black woman. And I just remember like dad having to be your bodyguard at some of these spaces and like you coming home crying because you just trying out here to serve for people. But people need to know how you overcame that. People need to
Hmm.
know the other aspects and what you did to get beyond it because there are so many women that are still stuck thinking that they can't be the first in their lane or can't go to this next level. I see you doing it with the kids now. And this is a call out to my mom. I'm speaking loud, like directly to y'all, but I'm also speaking to you too. You overcame something and you're doing that work now. Other people need to know how you overcame it. So with that being said, I'm gonna put this link up here again. I'm gonna put it also inside of the chat as well. I mean, not in the chat, but in the description, show description. I'm still getting
Hmm.
used to YouTube, y'all. You know, I'm still getting used to the whole thing. But anyways, I'm not letting procrastination stop me. I'm gonna put it inside of the description. Use BHM. I had to say the word out loud. BHM on checkout so you can get 20% off because we're waiting for you. We need to know. We need to know. So Melty, I know we've been up here for a good amount of time. Is there anything else that you want to share with women, like some practice, in addition to what you've already dropped with them tonight on things that they can do? What else can they do like right now, other than getting registered? What can they do right now? Anything else you want to share with them?
In terms of what they can do right now, I would start with those three questions.
Mhm.
Like, what am I most passionate about? What do people ask me about most often? And what topic can get me to the bag the fastest? Which one can I make money with the quickest? Like, start with that so that you're clear on your topic if you haven't already
Mhm.
started yet.
Mhm.
And then obviously step two, doing that word web. But one thought I do want to leave everyone with is that you can build an entire business model around your book. Or to Guy's points, you can bolster the revenue of your nonprofit with it. No, books aren't they're not going to be massive revenue sources, but because of the different ways that you can augment your revenue with them, books are very versatile. So, for one, if you're someone who has a nonprofit and you're looking to speak or present, a book is your cheat code to getting booked more quickly. If you're coming in as just a speaker, not everybody has a budget for just a speaker. They're usually looking for something tangible. So either a book, a course, or a curriculum, something tangible that they can take away and share with their either employees, with their students, if it's a community kind of program with families, they usually want something tangible to give to people. So books are a great way to do that. And that can bring in revenue through your book because usually when you do it like that as a speaker, they're ordering your book in batches. You know what I mean? Or even if they don't buy copies of the book, sometimes they'll allow you to sell copies of it at the back of the room so you can bring your batches with you. So there are ways to monetize your expertise using your book within your nonprofit. So you can take
Yeah.
the singular book first, then create the course or the curriculum. That can be your tangible thing. And then, of course, there are the different versions of a book. If you have a physical book, you might want to have a ebook version of it, a digital version of it. You can use that as a lead generator. There's the audio book. You can use that in any way that you see fit. The
Yeah.
audiobook might be part of your course if you couple it with some videos. There are plenty of options available to you once you have your IP on
Mhm.
the page or recorded,
Will
because the
they
beauty
get
of it is yours.
my bad,
Mhm,
my
go ahead.
bad. Will they get some of those ideas at the retreat? Like some of the kind of
Yes.
best ways that will that's more authentic and organic for them. Which way would be best to lean forward with that?
Absolutely. That's
Cool.
that's the final day. That's the Sunday where we talk about next steps. It's like, okay, I have my manuscript. Now
Mm-hmm.
what?
Mm-hmm.
So then we go into what those next steps would be, how to go about doing an audiobook, how to go about setting up an ebook, how to maintain your IP and generate as much revenue as you can from your book. The
Okay.
default idea is Amazon, but it's not the only way to go. So
Okay.
we'll teach all that.
Okay. I know I was about to land the plane, but like there are two more things I got to talk about. But
Okay.
this first portion, I'm hearing, you mentioned the word experience, and then you just mentioned, okay, it's not just you're writing the whole time. Can you give the people a little peek about the experience, about like, okay, what is the experience about, like, with this thing? 'Cause I just heard more. I'm like, okay, I know my wife's supposed to be going, but like, what's she about to be getting into, like, with everything, like, with this experience? Tell the people a little bit more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So the just to for folks, so you have that heads up, we are, this is going to be a faith-based kind of thing. So we over here, as Jess and I said, guy in her interview, like we and Jesus like this. We tight. So you know what I mean? We're not forcing it on anybody, but because
Mhm.
we are close to him, he's gonna come out in the way we express ourselves in our ideation and things like that. So just to give
Mhm.
you an idea of the environment you'll be in, um, but also you're going to be spending the entire weekend at a luxurious Orlando location. So one location the entire time, and there's morning time for your faith. That's the first hour of the day. The second hour is gourmet eating, okay? Because we have chefs on site that will be cooking breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then of course there'll be snacks in between. However, day one is going to be, and I would say the bonus day, really, which is Thursday. That's the day that everyone's traveling in. We're having a relationship roundtable where we're talking about the relationships you're going to even need as an author. Like, there are a lot of authors that don't get that kind of information, they have to learn it the hard way. So we have a global business consultant that's coming to talk about that because her strength is in leveraging relationships and she's done it for years. She's leveraged global relationships. So there's that. Day one, officially day one, which is the Friday, you're gonna get workshops from me in terms of everything that I've gone over with Guy. You're gonna get the chance to like breathe that information out. Like, we'll go over it in more detail and answer your questions in real time. You know what I mean? And then the latter half of the day, we get into creating the content of the book. And then all of Saturday, after the meal, after breakfast, like
Mhm.
the rest of that is content. We're getting your book out of you. And there are several of us that are authors already that will be on site, myself included, to answer any questions you have while you're writing your book or recording it. Like, we're here to like handhold you through the entire process so there are no questions left. And then the final day, Sunday, you're getting several workshops. So you're getting those next steps from a publisher, okay? You're getting taught from someone who owns a publishing company, and he's going to walk you through what your next steps are going to be once your manuscript is done. All of the steps that you're going to need, the services you'll need to hire, and actually also an opportunity to go further with us. If you want it to be a done for you thing, we will have that opportunity for everyone that's there on Sunday.
So, so really, what I hear, one, it's going to be a lot of intimate time to build community with people, but then also it's
Yes.
really taking, there's some pre work that's going to be done, but really getting everything out of you onto paper or computer screen, so that way, and then also how to take everything that you just created and get it out into the market, which leads me to the next point. We mentioned the word income, and
Hmm.
I'm a person of faith, and I just heard Holy Spirit just tell to say this to y'all. If you're wrestling with the word income because of what your story, your experience is, I'm going to challenge you and say you can't have impact without income. Because why do you need grants? That's income so you can do the work that you need to do. And if you just think about, well, I don't want to sell my book, well, how much you want to give more impact? Okay. Take that
Mm-hmm.
as your frame of mind. If that's stopping you, because we talked about, the third question she asked, which one will get you to the bag faster? Which one will get you to have more impact faster? Which one will get you to influence more people to make better decisions about, she used, the word of healing from divorce. How are you going to help people to heal from divorce faster, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's impact. Okay, so if you're wrestling with that, with the term of profiting or making or generating income, think about impact. Okay, don't let that stop you, because again, we got to have income to have impact. All right, and so think about that when you're signing up for this, signing up for the Spring Forward Writers Retreat, the impact that you will have because you went through this process with some people that's been in the industry with 14 plus years, sitting right here to my right. On the screen is to my left, however it is, but sitting right here talking to you all. And plus I know the other person, L. David Harris, like, is going to be there. Like, I'm just dropping the bag, but
Yes.
like, it's like,
Yeah.
the dude don't
I'm
write
so excited.
writing books like I just saw, pump them out like this, but how to publish them, but then also talk about the industry relationships. And again, I'll
Yes.
talk about the importance of relationships as it comes to grants and getting funding. I just I just see so much for those that are attend for this, but I'm not gonna keep dragging it out. Get signed up, get registered, and go. And that was my closing thoughts were: if you were having trouble thinking about the word income, replace it with impact. Okay, impact, because that's what you're gonna be doing when you get your book out. Any last thoughts, Melty, before we sign off for tonight?
I would just echo what you're saying. Like the world needs what you know.
Yeah,
The world needs what you know. And one book can change someone's life. How many times have we heard of people talking about the book Rich Dad Poor Dad? Robert Kiyosaki has written several books since then, but that one is his like flagship book.
yep,
It's changed millions of lives. On the spiritual side, Dr. Joyce Meyer, she had a goal when she was younger to author 100 books before she passes away. She's already passed that goal. However, even with all of that, her flagship book, the one that has changed millions on millions of lives, Battlefield of the
field of
Mind.
mind.
There are people
Yeah,
who will forget all of her sermons, they'll forget all of her other books, they'll remember that one.
yeah,
So, people, the world needs what you know.
yeah,
Your one book can change thousands of lives.
yeah, yeah. So, what's get on that? Is that how you end it?
Hashtag, hashtag get
Hashtag
on
get on
that.
that. All right, y'all. Listen, we'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in. It's been a pleasure connecting with you all tonight. All the links and everything will be inside the show notes. Looking forward to seeing your story. Looking forward to seeing how you're going to be leveraging this and grants inside of your nonprofit, inside of your social enterprise. See y'all next week. Peace.